Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are all having a good day so far. So we've been building a lot of React projects lately, so if you guys want to go check that out, I'll have it linked in the description below. Anyways, in this video today, we'll be building this responsive landing page using HTML and CSS. It doesn't have much to it, but it's going to teach you the core fundamentals of how you can start implementing responsiveness pretty much into your websites, and hopefully you'll learn a thing or two from this video. So let's take a look at what we have right now. So just ignore this get dimensions button I have right here. That's just gonna display the dimensions of our screen size when we click on it. I'm gonna go get rid of that after the end of this video, so you don't have to worry about that too much. So as you can see, we have this nav bar here with 4 links: about, home, service, and contact, and an H1 that says responsive landing page, and an image. So nothing too cool. And here's where the real magic starts taking place. So if I slowly start shrinking my screen size, you're going to notice that everything will start shifting around and react to the current screen size, and that's going to determine how the UI, the browser, is going to display our styles. So once we get down to this size, which is 612 by 675, you're going to notice that these links are no longer pushed to the right side of the browser anymore. It's actually centered by using Flexbox, so there's space all around all these items. So there's equal space here, here, and yeah, just between each of these items. You're going to also see that our 2 elements here, the H1 and image tag, actually stacks on top of each other once we get to a smaller screen size, and yeah, it just stops growing from there. So if you guys are interested, let's get right into the video, and I'll be showing you guys exactly how to replicate this. Alright, so I'm in Visual Studio Code right now. I just created a simple HTML page called landingpage.html. You can do the same on your coding editor, and let's get started. So we can use Emmet to generate all this boilerplate code. And what we want to create here is a container. So create a div, give it an ID of container. And inside of this, we want to have our nav. And we also want to have an unordered list inside the nav. And inside the list, we want to have an li with an a in between each of them. Give this a an href of hashtag, so it doesn't actually lead us or redirect us to any real website. It's just there for a placeholder. And copy that down 4 times because we're going to have 4 links. And actually, let me zoom in a little bit. And there we go. That's good. Next, let's create our second container. So we'll give this an ID of container 2, since we'll be having 2 containers total. So this container will store our H1, which, as you guys remember from the video, stores 2 elements: the H1 that says responsive landing page, as well as our image. So let's just give this an ID of image. So let's just give this a source of this source right here. So this is the image address I got from my portfolio website that I created using React a few months ago. If you guys want to check it out, I'll have the link down below, or actually, I could probably even make a video on that if you guys would be interested. Let me know down in the comments below if you are. Anyways, that's all we need. So let's also create a button. Give this an ID of button, and let's just call it generate, or actually show dimensions. And that's all we need for our HTML. So let's take a look at what we have so far. So if I refresh, all this should go away. And there we go. And where is our button? Right there. So obviously it doesn't work yet because we haven't added any event listeners, so let's go do that real quick. Let's go inside of our JavaScript, and I'm going to make this quick since this tutorial is mainly focused on responsive web design, not JavaScript. So I'm just going to quickly grab the button and then giving it an event listener of click, so that it's going to fire off this function here when we click on it. And all we want to do is just alert out the dimensions of our current screen size. So we can use some template literal strings, which you can find by tapping on the key above your tab key on your keyboard if you have that. If not, then try looking around a little bit in your keyboard. It should be there. So what we want to say in here is just window.innerWidth, and then escape outside of these curly braces, add a comma, and then do window.innerHeight. So this will go to the window object and grab the inner height and inner width of the current screen size. So that's pretty straightforward. And now if we go back and actually click on our button, it's going to show us our current screen size. And if I resize this down and click it again, it's going to display different values each time. So we got that working. Now let's go style up our project. So I'm just going to use some style tags. So the first thing we want to do for our CSS styles is just importing these Google fonts, and they're just Poppins and Montserrat. So you can go to Google Fonts and look up those names and you should be able to find them. And let's just style everything and all the pseudo elements in our CSS and just give each of them a margin of 0, and we'll also do padding 0, box sizing border box. So basically what these styles are doing is that they're gonna remove the default behavior of our web page so that everything starts out with no margin, because if I were to comment this out, then you're gonna notice there's some space, some gap in between the links and the side of my computer. So let's uncomment that back out so it can be applied. And now for our body, we're just going to use this background color of #141A27, which is going to give us this lovely dark blue color here. So our image is going to stand out a lot better on this background color than the white background we had previously. And then we'll also do with 100V width, so it's going to take up 100% of the available width that it's given. And for our container, we'll just give it a background color of #313C4E, which is going to be this slightly lighter shade of bluish gray than the background on our body. Alright, and then we'll do with 100V width again, so it's going to take up 100% of the available width. And we'll do display flex, so that's how we're going to align our items. We'll say justify content flex end to push our items to the end of our nav bar. If we did flex start, that's going to position it on the left side, on the left corner. So let's just change that back to flex end. Let's do height 70 pixels to give it some more thickness to it. And let's do align items center so that it's going to center all of its items. And there we go. And let's also give our nav a width of 100%. And since our nav is inside of this container, it's going to take up 100% of the width of the container. And as you notice here, the width of the container is 100V width, so we're technically writing 100V width here, but in a different way. So now, let's style up our UL, and we'll say display of flex. And as soon as I type that, you should notice things changing on our website right away. Obviously, we want to get rid of these bullet points, if you guys can see it here, and get rid of these underlined links and change the link to a different color so that it looks better. So let's go do that right now. So we'll say justify content space around, so that's going to give each of these links equal space all around. And we'll say list style none to get rid of those bullet points, and we'll say width 50% so that it takes up only 50% of the available width. And now to actually move it to the right side of our nav bar, we have to say float right, and there we go, it floated to the right. If we want it to be on the left side, then we can just say float left, and that should float back to the left side. In fact, I think it's already defaulted, so you don't even need to type that style, but in this case we want it to float to the right, so I'm going to bring that back. And then we want to go into our UL and select our LI and just give it a color of white so that it shows up better. And we'll give it a font family of Poppins, which is what we imported from Google Fonts. And let's do cursor pointer so that when we hover over it, it actually turns our cursor into a pointer. And let's also give this a transition of 0.3s, since we're going to be wanting to add some special side effects to it. And let's do font size clamp, which is a really cool CSS property I just learned. So basically this function clamp takes in three properties, three parameters, and the first one is the minimum value, which I'll set to be 1em. The third value is like the screen size, or like the incremental change, I guess you could call it. So I'm just going to say 2v width and 1.3em as my maximum size. So this is going to constrain our font size to be between 1em and 1.3. It's never going to go lower than that and never higher than the maximum value. And now actually let's test it out. So if I were to resize it, you're going to notice that these links are actually growing and shrinking as I change my screen size. And now let's give our li inside of our ul list a hover property, so that when we hover over it, we want it to scale by 1.1, so it's going to increase in size by 10%. and if we hover over it, you should see it scaling up. And maybe we should also give our A tag a text decoration of none so that it actually gets rid of that underlining. And then we'll set the color to white, and there we go, we got our links exactly the way we want it to. So we can just get rid of this here. And now let's style our image and give it a max width of 45%, and we'll say float right so that it floats to the right side of our screen. And then we'll do margin 50 pixels, 45 pixels, 0, 25 pixels. So this is going to go in clockwise order, so it's going to start from top, right, bottom, and left. And then after that, we want to grab our H1 and we'll set its color to be white so that it shows up. And we'll just do width 50%, so it takes up only 50% of the available width. And let's do position relative since we'll want to do some positioning. And we'll do transform, translate 0%, 65%, so that's going to move it down a little bit. And then we'll say font family and set that to be Montserrat sans serif. Then we'll do text align center to center our text. Let's do font size again and say clamp. Pass in our minimum value of 1.75, and then 3V width, 3.1, and then let's do margin 0, 0, 0, and for the last value, which is the left side, we'll set that to be 5%, so that it's going to have some margin on the left side. And now for our container 2, let's grab that and say display flex on it, and now that positions our elements in the same lines. And let's do justify content center just to make sure that they're centered, and we'll do align item center as well. Now this is where we start adding in our media queries, which helps us reorganize the layout of our website once it hits a certain screen size or width in this case. So we're going to say max width in here, and let's say 700 pixels, and we'll want to grab our container. And so when our screen size hits 700 pixels, we want to set its justify content to be center. And then for our UL, we just want to set its width to be 100%. And then we want to set our UL to be a width of 100% when the screen size is 700 pixels. So if I start shrinking this down, once we hit that 700 pixel mark, you're going to notice that our nav links actually stretched to fill up the entire space available on the top bar, which is great. So now let's select our image. We'll say margin of none since we don't want any margin on our image once it reaches that size, and grab our H1 and we'll also say width 100%. And let's do container 2. We'll say flex direction column so that it's going to make our two elements stack on top of each other like this. Beautiful. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is for this project. So let's take a look at it one more time before we wrap up for the video. So we have our 4 links, our button, which I'm going to get rid of soon, and if I start resizing this down like this, everything is just slowly and steadily shrinking based on the size of the browser, and it just looks great, guys. Alright, this is it for the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like and smash the subscribe button to help support my channel. And also, I just want to say a big thank you to you all for helping me reach 400 subscribers. We just hit it yesterday, and it feels great. Thank you all for your support, and stay tuned for the next video.